Hey guys, it's Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, welcome and thank you for finding us. I hope this video finds you well. If you are not subscribed, then you could subscribe. If you feel like it would be much appreciated. I say it every time, but it really does help. Today we're talking about a Wuxia film. We're talking about Jet Li. We're talking about batshit insane martial arts cinema. We're talking about boutique Blu-ray labels, Eureka Entertainment in particular. If any of those things appeal to you and you do feel like subscribing, it would be much appreciated. Let me know in the comments what you think about this movie. If you've seen it before, it is completely insane. I'm sure you have something to say about it if you've seen it before. And anything else that you feel like talking about in the comments. What are your favorite Blu-ray labels? What are your favorite snacks to eat while you are watching movies and all of that fun stuff? I really like foods that begin with P. So like popcorn, pretzels, potatoes, puke, penis, pussy, like all of those things, top foods for me. And so I always like a pea snack. A pea snack. I like to drink pea pops, eat pea popsicles. I make popsicles out of my own pee. What are we talking about? It's actually really appropriate for the movie that we're going to be talking about because it's insane. And also shout out to our patrons, as always, because they are amazing and it's an amazing community and I love making videos for there. This is the press release, in case anybody cares. This is Kung Fu Cult Master, the batshit insane. What I said about this movie on Twitter while I was watching it was, it's like a Wuxia film on bath salts. If you don't remember bath salts, this was a thing in was this like 2011, 12? There was a drug that was making people try to eat one another like zombies. That was called, it's called bath salts. And I became obsessed with it because you read these articles, you'd be like, a man on bath salts today ate partially consumed an other man's face. Like literally they were eating each other like fucking zombies. Anyway, bath salts. What is this movie called? Kung Fu Cult Master. It was released December 18th of 1993, and it was in theaters for 2 weeks, so it ran until the 31st of December, 1993. And on January 29th, 2024, Eureka Entertainment is releasing a limited edition first run Blu-ray, that will have the slipcase with the artwork and the booklet and all the bells and whistles that you get with Eureka. There are 2 phenomenal bonus features on this release that I'm going to be talking about as part of my review. This film was written and directed by Wong Jing. It is based on a 4-volume novel. Part of the insanity of this movie is that you have a 90-minute movie based on what is, I'm assuming, if it's a 4-volume novel, many, many hundreds, if not thousands of pages of material, right? And they're trying to get as much in as they can. So it's not just that the events of the movie are completely insane. It's the adaptation of it, the amount of information. It's insane. It's like this nonstop deluge. I'll get into my thoughts in a second here. Action director on this film was Sammo Hung. A producer on the film was Jet Li. Jet Li and Sammo Hung are both in the film. Jet Li is the lead. Sammo Hung plays his kind of mentor figure. And then you have Ching Mi Yao, who was phenomenal in this movie. I loved her performance. Charlotte Chung is in this movie, who's in Tiger Cage 3. She's the lead in that, if you saw that movie. Beardy is in this movie. The cast of this movie is insane. Colin Chu is in it. Francis Richard, as you know, is one of my favorite comedians ever. I absolutely love him. He plays a guy who's like a bat creature. As I told you, this movie is insane. So let me try to give you a brief rundown of the plot of this film. Jet Li plays a character who, when he was a child, his parents died, and he gets taken in by this martial arts school / temple that's run by Sammo Hung. He's injured as a child, and he can't do martial arts because of the injury he has. So this is really, really, really interesting right away, because you have Jet Li cast as someone who can't do martial arts. And it's freaking Jet Li, who's one of the greatest martial artists ever, right? In real life and also in movies. So you're like, okay, where's this going to go? It's genius casting, right? And then basically a series of completely insane events unfold. There's betrayals. There's all these secret sects. There's a cult that has black magic that people are trying to destroy. And they're people are looking for this guy. There's this whole plot where there's this guy, his name is Golden Lion or something like that. Something Lion. And he's friends with Jet Li's parents. And people, like, the reason Jet Li's parents die is that they're protecting this guy because everyone's trying to find him, right? And so there's like that's kind of like a plot strain there that everyone's trying to find this guy, and but then you're following Jet Li's kind of quest to. This movie is insane. There's a lot involved in it, but if you tried to boil it down, Jet Li is trying to like investigate his past and do justice to his parents because they were killed, while major life events are kind of forcing him away from everything that he's known his whole life and everything he grew up around and all of his comfort zones and stuff like that. So to give you my thoughts on this movie is not a movie that has like really good pacing, really like subtle storytelling, really solid scene work, really good sequences, like a really strong structure. Like it's a movie that is essentially screaming at you for like 90 minutes. It starts with one of the most information overload, like exposition scenes ever, where they're explaining all of the like I would say close to like a dozen characters, all of these different factions they belong to, all of these martial arts schools and like religious groups. And like, it's like setting the scene of an entire epic world. Like imagine if in the opening of Lord of the Rings, right, you're setting up like the ring and, you know, there's elves, there's dwarves, there's people, there's evil, there's good, the ring disappears, whatever. Imagine if in Lord of the Rings, first of all, imagine that that there's only one Lord of the Rings movie. It's 90 minutes long, and the first 5 minutes of it was every single piece of exposition that you needed to know for the whole thing. That's what it's like watching this movie. It's like literally thousands of pages of literature being crammed into this intro so that you can understand the entire context of all of the characters and the world. So it's like information is like assaulting you throughout this whole movie. And there was a point at which I was like, I'm not going to try to remember this because there's no way that I can follow this movie while trying to remember every single faction and every single person. I'm going to follow the journeys of the characters, and that will lead me through the story. I'm not going to worry about all the other stuff because there's just too much information, right? And the events of the movie are just like this series of completely insane climaxes of like violence and conflict and like sexual tension, and like there's this completely insane guy who like shouts the whole time and like his spine is broken, so he's like lashed to a boulder by vines and he like rolls around on the boulder and shouts at people. There's the bat guy played by Richard, right, who's like literally a dude with bat wings who like can drink blood if he wants to and like has poison in his, like it's insane. And there's never a point at which it kind of slows down and lets you settle. It's like insanity the whole movie. Like there's one scene where these people are trying to attack a mountain and the mountain is like booby-trapped and like things are coming out of the ground and stabbing them, and then they start falling through the sanding and it's attacked by these people who are hiding under the sand, and then someone goes under the sand with a sword and is hacking off limbs, and so you see like a shot of the ground and arms are just like flying, bloody arms are just like flying up onto the sand. It's like non-stop violence, climax, insanity. Like there's only really a couple scenes where this movie like has a rhythm and it settles into something. And one of those scenes was maybe my favorite scene in the whole movie, which is Jet Li and the Ching Mi Yao character, Ching Mi, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, so let me know in the comments. Ching Mi Yao and Jet Li, they kind of run away together. They escape, if you want to call it that, and they end up in this restaurant, and they're just there to eat. But then all of these people from Jet Li's past come in, from when he was a kid. And he's like, wait, I recognize that guy. I recognize that person. I recognize that person. And he can't quite put all of the pieces together. We know who they are because we've seen his past very recently in the film, right? But it's this really good scene of like this sudden dropping of all this information on the character and him like reeling, trying to deal with it and make sense of everything while he's in this like new situation. Like that was a really good scene. And there's a couple other moments that I let me just check my notes here that I really liked. There are amazing sets in this movie, by the way. There's a great monologue from Sammo Hung actually towards the end of the film where he's talking about like the philosophy of his school, why he teaches martial arts, why he teaches them the way he does, what it means to him. That was like a really great moment. I wrote down while I was watching this movie, this might give you some indication as to what it's like watching this film. I wrote down, why is there a pop song playing while people are being decapitated? Like, there's a scene in this movie where just randomly a song starts playing during like one of the most violent scenes in the movie, and you're like, what is happening? This is Wong Jing at his most insane. And if you enjoy that, if you enjoy, like, I think this movie really appeals to, like, the fans of Hong Kong cinema who love stuff that is completely insane. Like, who love movies like The Seventh Curse, right? Where just, like, every moment of that movie you're like, what is going on in this movie? Like, it's just bananas, right? That movie has more of a kind of a rise and fall of the pacing in it. Whereas this film really is like, I'm trying to think of like an other film or an other filmmaker where the pitch is like this high for the whole movie. And it's just like, ah, like if the movie could make a sound, the sound of this movie would be someone screaming at you for 90 minutes. But it's like, I enjoy completely insane stuff, and I really enjoyed the watch on this film. And it was just, it's insane to witness. Like every moment of this movie, you're like, am I really seeing this right now? Or like, did someone really make this movie? And like Jet Li is in it, and Wong Jing made this movie. Like, this was a movie with a budget that's based on like prestige source material that like was a big holiday release in Hong Kong that is this insane. And so in a way it gives you faith in, I mean, it was 30 years ago, but it gives you some faith in the world of creativity and cinema that this kind of shit exists, and that someone made this movie at this high of a level with a movie star as big as Jet Li, with Sammo Hung involved as an action director and as a star and stuff like that. So the bonus material on here really, really, really must be discussed. There is a Frank Zheng commentary that is absolutely indispensable. That is one of my favorite Frank commentaries ever. Frank has read the source material that this movie is based on, and there is, as far as I understand it, the books that this is based on were never translated into English. So if you do not read Chinese or maybe another language that this was translated into, you will have no context for this at all. And Frank explains like, oh, well, this character had a bigger part. There were points during the movie where I was actually texting Frank being like, there were a couple characters who kind of confused me because they kind of look similar, or people reference like, oh, that person kind of reminds me of so-and-so. And I'm like, I couldn't quite figure out what was going on. So I actually texted Frank and I'm like, are these people like the same person? Is that just like, and he explained it to me. And like in the commentary, as you watch the commentaries, he explains everything about the context of this film, like who the factions are. And like there's a character, the lion guy who I mentioned earlier, who's apparently like one of the biggest characters in the book, who's like in the movie, but he's not a main character in the movie. So you kind of get a better idea of how the narrative kind of like in part revolves around what would have been his involvement had they not kind of trimmed that part out of the movie. And they were going to make a sequel, but they never made it. So Frank talks about like which sections of the book are in this movie and what they were planning on putting into the sequel. And it's an open-ended ending, so you can, which is very frustrating, right? Because there's like certain plot threads they don't tie up at the end of the film because they were going to make a sequel that they never made. But then you can get that information from this commentary track, and in addition to the fact that Frank provides like a lot of cultural context, historical context, information about all the people who were in the film, something else that he does in this, which I thought was really fun, was if there's someone in a film, like in this movie, if there's an actor, or if there's a producer or someone who he's talked about extensively in a different commentary track, he's like, and if you want to learn more about that person, you can go listen to my commentary track on this other movie available from Eureka. So that was fun. It's like an appendix of Frank commentaries that we're starting to build. But that I really would go so far as to say that commentary track is indispensable. Like if you have the time and the inclination to watch commentary tracks, like this movie was so much clearer to me and made so much more sense. Obviously, it making sense is not really part of the insanity of watching this film, right? That's not why you watch a film like this. You watch it for the madness of it and the fact that it doesn't seem to totally make sense. But it made a lot more sense, and I understood a lot of the context. And, Frank talks about how, like, this book, the book that it's based on, is so hugely popular that they made the movie thinking that the people who were seeing it in theaters would know the context of the book, and so it wouldn't be that big of a deal if they left chunks of it out, right? Whereas now, as me being a Westerner, an American, like watching this movie with none of the context at all, it's kind of confusing and insane, right? So then you can get that backstory and that kind of like really listen to the commentary track. And then there's a 20-minute long interview with Sammo Hung on here, which was done by Frederic Ambroisine, who's done like countless amazing, and I apologize, I don't speak French, so I'm probably mispronouncing his name, but done countless incredible interviews that are on DVDs, Blu-rays, and have been for years. And it's a 20-minute long interview. It was originally apparently going to be on the When Taekwondo Strikes release, the Angela Mao film, which Sammo Hung is in and was the fight choreographer on. But they didn't have enough room on the disc because they put that 90-minute long documentary on there in addition to the film. So it ended up on this release. And it's really good. I mean, Sammo plays a big part in this movie and was the action director, so it's appropriate that it would be on here. And he talks about like when he fell in love with movies as like a teenager and how he really wanted to work in the industry and he really wanted to be proud of his work. And like when he started working at Shaw Brothers, to him it wasn't about like being starstruck by being at Shaw Brothers, but about doing the best work that he could and being proud of himself as a stunt performer and doing work that other people thought was like at the right level and that they would want to continue to work with him. And he just loved the industry. He wanted to be in the industry. He talks about his relationship with Wong Feng, who's the director of When Taekwondo Strikes, and how important that relationship was to him as his career developed and stuff like that. So it's a really, really great interview. So that interview and Frank's commentary track are amazing supplements, and I highly encourage you, like if you're interested in seeing this film and you haven't read the books and you can't read Chinese, so you don't have access to the books like me, and I am always a fan of watching Sammo or anyone like that at that level who I admire that much, Jackie Chan, Johnny To, John Woo, like all these, I love watching those interviews. Michelle Yeoh, there's so many amazing Michelle Yeoh interviews out there these days because of all the, like the In the Line of Duty films and Super Cop and like all that stuff was coming out last year and the year before. So I love that stuff. So it's a phenomenal interview. It's an incredible commentary track, and it is a batshit. It's like, this is the perfect like Friday night WTF, get together with your friends, have your snacks, have your whatever it is that you enjoy, like your water, your tea, your beer, your wine, your bourbon, whatever you like to drink when you watch movies. And just watch this movie. I think it would be really fun. I watched this movie alone because it was like a Sunday night, and I was like, just throw this on. I kind of want to, I want to check it out. I want to do the review. I'm going to watch it. But if you have friends who are into like batshit movies and like action movies and insane like exploitation B movies, like get your friends together and watch this movie, and it will be really, really, really fun. This movie is fun, right? That's like, I think like the main takeaway. It doesn't always make sense. There's no thought given to pacing. The scenes are insane. Like, it's just fun, and enjoy yourself and watch this crazy movie. So my name is Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. I thank you so much for watching as always, and we will see you next time.